Welcome to the Aero GS channel. I'm your host, Corey Bartolotti, and we're going to go ahead and dive right into this mess that you see here before you today. Basically, the story on this is the previous drainage installer that was hired to install this system ran out on the job because they had no clue what they were doing. As you can see here, look at that. They used a T instead of a Y. And on top of that, the entire main line, this corrugated main line, is like a roller coaster throughout the trench. The trench isn't leveled correctly. I mean, it's just a complete nightmare. Now, we're actually out on the job site the next morning and it had rained. So the entire trench is filled with water. And now we can actually see how bad the grade truly is on this trench. So they ran out on the client, so we're here to fix the problem and get this mess cleaned up. So we're going to get started by first tearing this mess out and dissecting this Dr. Seuss system that they tried to install, and we're going to see what they did wrong. So unfortunately, this is a perfect example of what I try to explain to some of my clients, that when you go with the cheaper bid, sometimes that's not always the best option. Saving yourself from a headache like this is worth a couple extra bucks, because this is just going to cost you more in the long run. Now look at the water just pouring out of that corrugated pipe going the wrong direction in that trench. You do not want something like that happening. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut this pipe up, we're going to bag it up, and we're going to haul it away. Now that we got this system gutted open, let's go ahead and take a look at the insides. We got deck screws through almost every joint in this system. I mean, this is absolutely insanity. I could not believe this when we started taking a closer look at it. And I mean, it literally was through almost every joint. They had deck screws. And of course, the classic duct tape fixes everything. Yes, we got the duct tape on here. What would the system be without the duct tape? Once again, duct tape does not belong in drainage systems, so keep duct tape out of drainage systems. So we're going to start off by laying tarps down. If you're doing this yourself, I would highly recommend using tarps or some sort of thick plastic to put your dirt on. It makes cleaning up a lot easier. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to retrench this entire trench so we can get the grade right and get the water to fall in the direction that we want the water to fall. Now, when you're digging a trench, we have found that the best way to do this is work it in increments. So do, roughly a 10-foot section at a time, and continue to remove thin sections of dirt at the bottom until you have the water flowing nicely, like you can see right here in this video clip. As he broke through that section, there was a slight hill in the trench. The water started to flow nicely through that section. And as it makes its way down to me, the water's going to start to back up again because I'm still continuing to dig the trench on my end. So we're going to do this all the way out until the outfall, and we're going to have the water dump into a cow field that actually leads to a retention pond. So that's how our discharge on this system is going to be. It's going to be through the backyard, not to the front to the road. Now, once our trench is dug and sloped the proper direction the way we want it, the section of trench that's going to have the French drain is going to have geofabric laid in the trench. So that's going to outline the trench. Now, we're going to install our roof runoff system first. So our SDR pipe is going to go in first. The best way to do this is with two people. One person applies the glue, the solvent cement on the bell and the pipe, and the other person uses a mallet to mallet the two pieces together. We have found that this is a pretty quick way to do it and ensures that the bell seats nicely into the pipe. Another pro tip when working with PVC drainage pipe that has bell ends: always make sure the bell end is facing the direction that you're draining the water from and not to, because you want to make sure that the water falls down the step, doesn't try to go up the step. Because essentially when you push a piece of pipe into that bell end, on the inside there's going to be a tiny lip that pipe is going to create. So you want the water to fall down off that lip, not run into that lip. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but if you're trying to essentially go pro, that's the way you're going to want to do it. All right, so this is a dual pipe system. We have two pipes in the same trench, but they're both serving two separate purposes. The reason we keep them separate is because that solid SDR 35 PVC line, we want that separate from our French drain, because we do not want any contaminants to get into that roof runoff system to get into our French drain. So we want to keep those two separate. Now, another important thing, geotextile fabric, make sure you get the correct one and wrap your French drain pipe, your entire system, stone and all, with that fabric. You are going to want to do this. It's going to keep roots out of the system more efficiently. It's going to keep sand and sediment out of the system from settling at the bottom, and it's going to keep the dirt, clay, and anything else that's in that loomy soil from migrating back into the stone and clogging the voids in the stone. The voids in the stone, that's how water travels through the French drain and gets to the pipe. You need those voids in the stone. So use a good fabric and keep them open. Now, this French drain system is going to be on its own separate discharge line compared to the roof runoff system. We have found that once you start getting above one gutter downspout to a drainage system, the water is going to increase exponentially, especially on this size of a house. And that French drain that's in the ground is going to act as a giant leach field on a heavy rainstorm where that pipe starts to back up and cannot handle all the water. So it's best to keep both on their own separate line. Now, as you can see, we did add a clean out on our French drain. So we have a clean out between the SDR 35 pipe and the high octane slotted pipe. I figure we add a clean out that way. If it ever does need to be accessed for some reason, it easily can be. So it's a tedious process, but we like to stitch these systems up. That way they hold up forever in the ground this way, and they perform at their best. Now I want to go ahead and give a shout out to Sam's French Drains and Landscaping. I'm going to go ahead and link his YouTube channel in the description below. He's the one that taught me how to stitch these systems up, so shout out to him for that. Thank you, Sam. Appreciate that, brother. At the beginning of our roof runoff system on the first gutter downspout, we went ahead and we used a French Drain Man leaf filter / vented clean out. That way we can go ahead and catch any leaves that might end up in this gutter, because the oak tree that's in the front of the house is closest to this gutter. So we went ahead and we figured, let's go ahead and put a clean out on this front one, since the majority of the leaves are going to want to gather in this specific gutter. And that way you have an access point at the front of the system, and you'll have an access point at the discharge of the system for the roof runoff system. Because remember, that French drain, that's going to have an access point at the discharge end and at the clean out that we installed. All right, so the last step is going to be grading all this dirt back into place, and we're going to be putting fresh sod over this entire area to give it a nice finished off look. Now, when you're grading this dirt back over where your French drain is, you're going to want to put a very thin layer of dirt and then just put the sod directly on top. And when you're grading this dirt, make a slight swale and slope the ground towards the French drain. That way the water wants to travel towards the low point, which is going to be your entire vein of stone, which is your French drain in the ground, and that water is going to want to go towards that point, find its way into the French drain, into that pipe, and be carried away. And that is how essentially it dries out the area that the French drain has been placed in. So now, guys, you have to remember, a French drain is meant for picking up subsurface water. That's water that's under the ground. It's groundwater. When water rises in the ground, it enters that French drain, it goes into that pipe, and it makes its way out wherever the discharge end is. Now, a French drain is not going to collect immediate surface runoff water. So when it is raining hard, and you only have a French drain in the yard is still going to flood. But after that rain event is over, give it 20 to 30 minutes. That yard is going to dry out a lot quicker, because that water now has a place to go subsurfacely, and it's going to lower the water table, and it's going to allow the water to go down into the ground. Now, if you have a lot of clay, then the French drain, it's going to help, but it's going to still take a longer time to dry that yard out. So just be aware of that. If you're trying to move large amounts of water at once, and it's all just surface runoff water, then you're going to have to use some kind of drains. That's going to be the only way to move that water out. We hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something from watching it. And if you want a system built right the first time and you live in the Tampa Bay area or surrounding counties, give us a call. We can come out there and assess the situation and help design a drainage system that fits your needs. And until next time, this is Aero GS signing off.